welcome everyone here, since this is in person only, to the board retreat for the SU. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, there will be one addition to the agenda under old business. I just want to make a quick statement about the vision mission statement.
Tina, could you speak up just a tad?
Sure. Do you need me to repeat that, Mike?
No?
Okay.
Just,
So, other than that, does anyone have any other additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion
Thank you, Mike. I'm assuming to approve it with the change.
with changes. Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. General public comments, seeing no public here today, I will move on. Approval of the minutes from June 4th. I did find a few typos, which I've handed to Chris already. Other than that, I'll look for a motion to approve with the small grammatical typos. Thank you, Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on. Approval of warrants. I need a motion to approve the warrants from this month. Thank you, Eric. Higher. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Motion passes. Finance, monthly reports. Lewis.
So the only item I'm ready to discuss tonight is the ESSER update. So I did drop it into the board packet online, but there's a hard copy coming around now. So this forecast is as of June 30th. I'll just give it a few seconds to go. Get around the table.
Thank you.
So looking at the top section on the grid, I've included what we spent in FY23. That's when we started spending these funds. Our total allocation is $3.6 million. We spent $661,000 in FY23. At that time, we were still utilizing some ESSER 2 funds. In FY24, which is the year that just closed, we spent a little over $2 million. So total expense to date is $2.6 million. So that leaves roughly $1 million remaining to spend in the next 3 months. In the columns to the right, I've highlighted stuff that is planned but not spent yet. So the money has not left our doors, but some of it has already been committed and spent. So I've separated the committed stuff into 2 columns, non-wages and wages. So looking at the non-wage stuff first, I have numbers broken down by category, but then I have further details on the bottom as to what makes up those numbers. So I'll go through them. So under the instruction category, we have $74,000, and that is just instruction supplies. If you go down to the bottom, $48,000 under instruction supplies, straight down into the non-grid section. $48,000 of that has not been spent yet. The other $25,000 has been, and the items have been ordered. We just haven't paid the bills yet. Lisa, I met with Lisa, the curriculum director, today. She does have items already planned for the $48,000, where she's working with schools to buy curriculum materials, intervention materials, and stuff like that. Next item under that same column is professional development, $79,000. And then if you go down to the bottom, I've listed PD and all of the different PDs sort of staggered to the right of that. So MTSS, UFly, curriculum, fact fluency, EST, and ALN. Those are the different curriculums items that are happening, or I'm sorry, the different PD items that are happening this summer. And this is all stipend work that our teachers are doing. Next item at the top is technology, $200,000. These items have already been ordered, we just have not paid the bill yet. Their items are in transit. This is mostly Chromebook and laptop refreshments, so each summer, all of our technology is on a cycle, usually a 3 to 5 year cycle, and so old stuff is discarded and new stuff is ordered. So this is mostly replenishments of all of the Chromebooks and laptops that we'll need for this year. Next item, plan operations, $6,000. That's the rent for the wellness center that we've been funding out of ESSER funds. And just as a reminder, so these funds expire September 30th, 2024. So like for the rent, it's 3 months at $2,000. Indirect expense, that item we have not taken. That's the amount we can pull out of the grant for indirect expenses, such as, each grant has an amount that you can pull out that you can use for anything. So you can use it for business office expenses, superintendent's office, all the time that we put in to the grant. That's an indirect, sort of an admin-related item. So this usually just goes in as a revenue, and so if you look at our budget each year in the GRCSU, we have a miscellaneous revenue line. Currently, it's $180,000, and that's mostly indirects that we pull out from all the grants. And what it does is it just offsets your assessment. Next item is sub-grants, $191,000, and those items are all identified to the left at the bottom. So we have summer school expense. This is for the academic and enrichment programs that we're running in our schools this summer. Keys to Literacy is a PD program at one of our schools. Polteny High School AV work, which is some upgrades that are happening at the high school. A Wells playground, a Proctor Elementary School playground, piece of music equipment at West Rutland, the Boys and Girls Summer Program at all of our schools, and then the startup cost for our Boys and Girls Club program in Wells Springs. So the total forecasted that's going to occur in the next 3 months is $761,000 for non-wages. The next column over is forecasted wages. That's for just the next 3 months, so July, August, and September. That's approximately $159,000. So total forecast is $920,000. And that leaves $36,000 remaining in this grant. Due to the amount of money we're working with, $36,000 is a small margin, so we don't want to commit that funds yet. We do have a list of proposals that we have received from schools that are being placed on hold until we get a little bit closer to the end to see where we stand after the summer programs. I think the summer programs are one of the big unknowns, just based on how staffing, as far as what the staffing costs will actually be. So I think once we get to September 1st, we'll have really a good idea as to where we are, and at that time, we'll start either approving those proposals that are on hold, or just letting it fly, leaving what we have, depending on whatever we have left available. Any questions?
Do we get any reimbursement or credit for the Chromebooks and stuff we turn in, or just?
So typically, if they're not usable, they're just discarded as e-waste. If they're usable, then we will try to continue to utilize them until they're usable. Usually the tech department looks at them and weighs what the repair cost or what the maintenance cost will be on it to keep it in service versus just replacing them. And these are cheaper machines for the Chromebooks. They're usually between $200 and $300 machines.
The Boys and Girls Club, what are we paying for? Are we just paying because we have the ESSER funds, or is this something that we're going to be budgeting out?
No, so what we've committed to is paying for startup costs for the programs, because if the program starts on day one, it takes them a period of time before they have people all signed up with subsidies and getting on a payment schedule. So there's a period of time where they're not receiving enough funds to cover their cost. So since we have the ESSER funds, what we agreed to was to pay those startup costs for approximately 6 weeks until they're up and running and self-sustaining, and at which time we don't contribute anything. So we did the same thing with Rutland Town. We did it with Pulteney Elementary School when they first started up. The summer program is what we're doing in West Rutland and Proctor, so we're paying those startup costs over the summer, and then so that they can work with families to get all that paperwork in. And then the $5,000 I have for Well Springs will be for September for their startup cost. If Well Springs does have some budgeted money, so if the startup usually takes a little bit more than 4 weeks, and since ESSER ends on September 30th, they may need a little bit longer, and so what we would do is utilize some of that after-school program money in the local budget until they're up and running and self-sustaining.
So what happens, this is all good, what happens in 2026 when we don't have these ESSER funds and we need to fund all this, which is all good stuff?
So we've been very diligent to make sure that what we're using ESSER funds on is not, when we reach the end, that we're not going to just fall off a fiscal cliff. So we have end dates on everything that we've been funding. So everything that is, if it's staffing, the people are already in our local budgets. So they won't increase budgets when we look at FY 26's budget. So either they were added last year or they've been added many years ago, and we've just been utilizing ESSER funds and having local savings. It's different by position. Or we've been working on, like, if there's a position, we've been moving it towards local funding a little bit more each year. And then for the supplies, I think when you look at like supplies and PD, those are all extras. Some of that stuff that was coming out of local budgets in the past, and now they're not spending their local money, it's just resulting in savings. But I will say that there is stuff that will be turned, like requests that will be turned down after ESSER funds, because right now we're able to fund almost everything that is worthwhile to fund, where when we look post-ESSER, there's things that we just won't have the funding to fund, and we'll have to say no, that we'll have to look for other funding.
You know how hard it is to unwind it once you get it going now, right?
Yes, but a lot of that is staffing, and we've worked it so that we will not have any staffing issues post-ESSER.
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, I understand your concern. I think 4 years ago or 3 years ago, when this all began, we sat before the board, we made a commitment to the board that when these ESSER funds went away, we knew they would go away, that positions would sunset with the, when these funds, ended, as well as, we were purchasing things like one-time expenses. And so therefore, we were very careful that we did not want to find ourselves falling, in a trap like other districts may have been, where all of a sudden, like, now it moves to local budgets and we see our budgets are soar. We don't have that problem. And we've made that very clear to our board members, to our staff, and as Louis said, the hardest thing will be, people will be hearing no. But that's just the reality of education, pre and post ESSER world. Before ESSER, people heard no, and after ESSER, people hear no. But that's also allows us to prioritize. And I go back to the importance of strategic plan. The strategic plan allows us to prioritize and, say yes to things that are on the plan and say no to things that aren't, so.
And isn't part of the PD work, the goal is that we're paying it through ESSER to train teachers who will then train the next group of teachers, is my understanding.
Correct. It's one of the things we try to do with PD is turnkey as much as possible, and I think that's, instead of sending like 6 people to professional development training, we can send 2 or 3, and then look to bring them back to respective schools to turnkey and do some training there as well, so.
I think specifically with UFly, that's something Lisa has spoken about.
Yes, right, UFly, yep.
Thank you for the update, Liz. When next month, I noticed that on the expenditure reports and whatnot, that those were kind of like the year-to-date, the full year. So
The
you
one
give,
that you put in the packet today?
yeah, as of
They're as of-
July 1st.
Yeah, so there's probably nothing on them.
No, actually, they're they have everything.
So they were probably as of June 30th. They were the last
Probably.
year's.
They're just,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So will you be doing there's probably still some catch-up this month, I guess, for last month?
We'll still be paying bills for last year, probably for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And then usually by the second AP in July, after that, we cut it off, and anything new goes to the new year unless it's substantial. But it's mostly just paying bills. It's not any salaries or anything like that.
So we'll get the end-of-year report.
So typically I do an end-of-year report in August for all the boards, but due to the fact that our meetings are so early in August, it may not be until September.
So just kind of
Yeah.
depends. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Moving on. Next up is contract recommendations. We have two professional staff, Heather Wilson, speech language pathologist, horizontal move, and Cindy Wagner, special educator, horizontal move. Their salaries, as well as all of the information purposes only positions, will be listed in the minutes. I will entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Resignations. We had one, for Jennifer Williams, who was a occupational therapist assistant. Entertain a motion to accept her resignation.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Eric. Hire. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next up is old business. The superintendent evaluation update. The executive committee was not able to meet this month to finalize the process. We're very close. So far, we have kind of an outline of the calendar for the year of how we're going to do things. We are working on picking our rubric that we're going to use as our formal tool. But one thing that we will be doing is working on the superintendent goals, and Chris will be presenting his goals next meeting for us to approve.
Pending if the SU is able to develop goals.
Based on the goals that we're hoping to approve today. So as long as we're able to come up with some goals today, he'll bring his goals next month so that we can start the process of accepting them, modifying them, whatnot. So we'll have more of a complete update next month, hopefully for you, once the executive committee gets to finalize the process, which we're hoping to do before our next SU meeting. Any questions on that? Okay. The vision and mission statement, it came to my attention that last month it was on the agenda, and the reason it was on the agenda slipped my mind during the meeting, but it was because we have to officially adopt the vision and mission statements. At our May meeting, we had decided that we would bring it back to the local boards just to make sure that local boards were okay with the statements. And so next meeting, because it's an action item, I didn't want to add it to the agenda last minute without warning it for the public. So that will be on our August meeting, just to officially adopt the vision and mission statements. So, all right, so that brings us up to the board retreat. So we're going to take a recess now so that we can get some dinner. And once we are all settled into that, we'll move on to the next part.